Beneath the surface of consumer fitness tracking lies an invisible business-to-business economy. Millions of miles of human commuting and exercise data are currently being packaged, sold, and tied directly to billions of dollars in corporate capital. Three massive institutional markets rely on this information. Insurance companies use it to price healthcare reserve pools, environmental registries use it to issue voluntary carbon offset credits, and municipalities use it to justify the issuance of green bonds. But the financial architecture of these markets rests on a fragile foundation. They are built almost entirely on self-reported, honor system data generated by consumer smartphones and commercial wearables. Relying on unverified metrics carries severe historical precedent. When Volkswagen manipulated its vehicle emissions data to bypass regulatory tests, the resulting scandal cost the company over $20 billion in penalties and legal settlements. That same level of scrutiny now applies to human behavioral data. The Securities and Exchange Commission, the federal agency responsible for enforcing market rules and protecting investors, is beginning to subject environmental and health data to the exact same rigorous audit standards as corporate financial statements. Treating human movement as a casual, faith-based metric carries existential risk. Proving that an employee actually rode a bicycle to work is now a matter of strict corporate financial compliance. The incumbent standard for collecting this data is the consumer fitness app, dominated by platforms like Strava and native smartwatch trackers. Corporate human resources and sustainability directors default to these applications because they optimize for a zero-friction user experience. They require almost no effort to use, which drives high social engagement and rapid employee adoption. But the terms of service for these consumer applications explicitly disclaim any warranties of accuracy, reliability, or legal accountability. The platforms themselves legally declare that their data is provided as is. This creates a fatal conflict with professional standards. Actuarial Standard of Practice number 23, the binding framework that dictates data quality for the actuarial profession, explicitly prohibits actuaries from relying on unverified wellness data when calculating WIST. Environmental reporting faces the exact same barrier. Under the SEC's Scope 3 emissions rules and the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, the EU mandate requiring independent assurance of corporate sustainability claims, companies expose themselves to massive greenwashing liability if they calculate emissions reductions using consumer apps. By choosing highly popular, frictionless tools for institutional reporting, corporations inadvertently capture unusable data and create a severe, unrecognized legal trap for their enterprise. The core mechanical failure of the consumer app is the authentication gap. A standard mobile phone has a structural inability to prove the actual identity of the person moving, and it cannot prove the physical method they are using to move. Users routinely exploit this gap. They manually upload synthetic GPS files, attach wearable devices to pets to simulate steps, or record high-speed motorized e-bike rides as manual cycling effort. Even when used honestly, voluntary fitness apps suffer from severe demographic bias. Research shows their user bases heavily overrepresent wealthy, male, recreational athletes, while systematically excluding broader commuter demographics. This demographic skew destroys statistical validity. When cities purchase this biased heat map data to plan infrastructure, they waste millions of taxpayer dollars building protected lanes for weekend recreational riders instead of daily, transit-dependent commuters. Because this information lacks a secure chain of custody from the moment of collection to the moment of reporting, actuaries and carbon registries assess the financial value of this faith-based data at exactly $0. A platform designed to eliminate user friction inherently sacrifices the evidentiary rigor required to generate institutional return on investment. Moving to evidence-based data requires abandoning the social network model entirely. The VDOT framework, which stands for verification, inspection, demonstration, analysis, and testing, is built specifically as institutional data infrastructure. VDOT closes the authentication gap by forcing a multi-factor hardware handshake between the user, the physical bicycle, and the environment. The cryptographic binding sequence begins with a biometric scan to prove the user's identity. This is immediately followed by a handshake using near-field communication, a short-range wireless technology that scans a physical tag on the bike, all while establishing a continuous GPS trajectory. The final and most critical verification step relies on an RFID wheel sensor, a radio frequency tag embedded in the hardware that actively measures the rider's pedaling cadence throughout the entire trip. The software constantly monitors for a specific cadence window between 0.75 and 1.67 Hz. Hitting this specific rotational frequency provides definitive mathematical proof of human locomotion, instantly filtering out users sitting in cars or riding throttled electric vehicles. This creates a severe operational trade-off. Forcing a user to perform a biometric scan, tap hardware tags, and maintain active proof creates massive behavioral friction. Everyday commuters will not endure this level of administrative friction voluntarily. Generating audit-grade data requires direct, compensated intervention. To solve the friction problem, employers must step in and pay direct financial stipends to their employees as compensation for completing the rigorous verification protocol. This presents a dilemma for the chief financial officer. How do you justify a line item in the corporate budget that pays employees simply to ride a bicycle to work? This chart shows the architecture of an institutional healthcare reserve. The top section represents the margin for adverse deviation, or MAD, the extra capital insurers hoard to cover statistical uncertainty. Healthcare Reserve Release as a Service, or HRRAAS, is a financial mechanism that uses verified behavioral data to eliminate that statistical uncertainty, liberating the trapped capital. When an enrolled employee successfully completes 16 cryptographically verified commutes in a single month, the data achieves full actuarial credibility, triggering a specific, measurable reduction in the company's healthcare premiums. That same verified dataset feeds a second revenue silo. The rides automatically qualify for registry-ready bicycle commuter carbon avoidance credits, or BCCACs, which the employer can monetize on the voluntary carbon market. At the municipal level, cities utilize this exact same audit-grade mode shift data to issue green bonds, securing highly lucrative spread compressions of 25 to 50 basis points on public debt. The employee stipend functions as a revenue-sharing model, directly funded by the liberation of locked healthcare reserves and the generation of new carbon capital. The intense behavioral friction required by the hardware verification is the exact mechanism that qualifies a simple bicycle ride as a defensible corporate financial asset. Institutional buyers face a strict binary evaluation when selecting their data infrastructure. Small businesses, casual office wellness programs, and organizations with zero regulatory reporting burdens should retain frictionless consumer software like Strava. The breaking point occurs when organizations become self-insured or fall under SEC mandates. Here, the toolset must change. Upgrading requires navigating HIPAA and hardware supply chains. Yet, submitting unverified data in a regulated financial environment is legally worse than submitting no data at all. Organizations must choose frictionless apps if their primary goal is user engagement, but they must endure high-friction, audit-grade physical infrastructure if their fiduciary duty is to protect the institution's balance sheet.